I'm a little klutzy.
You want to try something? Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Yes. Maybe she didn't turn it on. Either that, it's up to you.
Who knows what? Yeah, I got one.
Do you need this?
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it wasn't on. It wasn't on the website. Yeah. Here, show it. Okay, I think we're gonna get started here. It's officially nightfall, which initiates the Yom HaShoah celebration commemoration. My name is Isaac Oziel. I'm on the Vad of Keilat Eretz Chemda. We are, if I can say, an aggressive shul looking to grow community in Katamon, and this is one of the many programs that we are honored to host. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. It's overwhelming to see the support for Joshua, who's here tonight to be able to tell the story, and also to commemorate together such a solemn occasion. Just a few housekeeping notes. There's a bathroom in the back and a bathroom here in the front, and there's coffee here behind if you'd like, and there's some snacks behind. And so before we begin, I think it's important to understand where Yom HaShoah comes from and why specifically the 27th of Nisan. Because on the surface of today's date, there's actually no significance to the Holocaust at all. So why are we commemorating on the 27th of Nisan when really there's so many events that happened during the Holocaust that we could have put it at any of those dates? In fact, it was debated, as everything is always debated, as to when Yom HaShoah should have been commemorated. And when the state of Israel was established, the Rabbanim decided to do it on Asara B'Tevet, on the 10th of Tevet, because the 10th of Tevet was a day of fast already, biblically, and they used that date as an opportunity to continue the idea of fasting and mourning. And in those 1 or 2 years that they commemorated on the 10th of Tevet, what they did was, at that time, unfortunately, in 48 and 49, was they were bringing bodies from Europe, bones, remains, Sefer Torahs, and anything they could really to bury to commemorate that solemn occasion of the Holocaust. When the Knesset was finally formed and they decided, as they do for a state, to establish the date, again, there was a lot of debate as to when they should do it. The prevalent date was going to be the 14th of Nisan, which is Erev Pesach, but also coincided with the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, which was the biggest movement by the Jewish people during the Holocaust to fight back. But understandably, it didn't work on Erev Pesach either, because it just doesn't work to do it on that day. But what they did was smartly is they actually looked back further in their calendar to April 19th, 1936. If you look it up, you'll see that there was an Arab revolt on that date, which was exactly on Nisan the 27th. But what happened was on that day, unfortunately, in the period of that time, 500 Jews had died. And that was in 1936. And when 1948-49 came around, they were still reeling from that because many family members had lost people from those dates only 13 years before. And they decided, let's commemorate, let's continue our destruction, our dates of destruction from that date of April 19th, 1936, which coincided to Nisan the 27th. So if you didn't know until now you know why Yom HaShoah is commemorated on Nisan the 27th. Also fittingly, I feel like every occasion that we have as a Jewish people comes with its ups and its downs. And agree with me, if you will, that Pesach is probably one of our biggest ups. And then to come down less than half a week later to Yom HaShoah, commemorating our biggest tragedy in Jewish history. And then, right back up next week with Yom Ha'atzmaut. And that's the resilience really of the Jewish people that we're able to go up and down as quickly as we can. Even at a wedding, as you know, it's the biggest celebration, but your final step before the marriage is actually breaking the glass to commemorate what happened. So it's always an exchange of the up and the down. So before we begin, I'd like to, first of all, thank the hosts, Yair and Avital, for opening up their home and allowing all of us to be able to do a program like this. I'd like to invite Avital to come and initiate the ceremony by lighting the candles in the front here in commemoration, one candle for each of the 6 million victims.
Thank you.
I also invite our cousin Alex Katz to recite the Kelma El Malei Rachamim. If we can please rise.
El Malei Rachamim, Dayan Amonot, Vavi Etomim, Al Natachashev V'Tapach L'Dam Yisrael Shenishpach Hamayim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona Kanfei Ashchina, B'Ma'alot Kedoshim Uterim, Kizor Rakia Mirim Umazirim Linishmotehem Sherivivot Alfi Yisrael Anashim Benashim Yiladim Viladot Shenehergo Vinishchato Vinisrefo Vinechneko V'nikberu chayim V'aratzot asher naga b'hen Yad hatzoreh hagirmani u'b'rav Kulam kedoshim u'teorim U'b'hem geonim v'tzadikim ארזי הלבנון, אדירי התורה, בגן עדן תמנוחתם, לא כן בעל הרחמים, יסתירם בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתם, אדוני הוא נחלתם, וינוח בשלום המשכבם, ונאמר אמן.
Thank you. So, just before we get to our main event, we want to invite Rav Pinchas, the rabbi of Keilat Eretz Chemda, to inspire us with a few words. In Hebrew, with some English drops.
לפני 18 שנה הייתי בפולין, הייתי כיתה י"ב, כל השכבה נסע, ונסע איתנו אבא של ראש הישיבה, הרב לורנץ, אביו היה בשואה, הוא הצטרף איתנו למסע בפולין. הייתי חצי שנה לפני הגיוס, לפני שנכנסתי לישיבה, הגענו לפולין, ונכנסנו לאחד המקומות, והיה מיטה קטנה. אז הניצול שואה, אדון לורנץ, אמר, מי רוצה להתנדב להיכנס למיטה? קפצתי, אני? אמר, תשכב. ואז הוא אמר, מי עוד רוצה להיכנס למיטה? ואז מישהו אמר, אני. ונכנסנו 9 אנשים, בן אדם החמישי, אמרתי לו, stop, I cannot breathe. Are you kidding me? I'm dead. הוא אמר, no, יש עוד מקום. ועוד קצת. בקושי 5 אנשים נכנסנו למיטה, ואני לא אשכח עד היום, לא היה לי מקום. דחף, עוד קצת. הוא אמר, ככה ישנו במשך המון זמן. ככה, במיטה הקטנה. ואז שאלתי אותו, אז איך שרדת? אם לא היה מה לאכול, אם לא יכולת לישון, אם איבדת את ההורים שלך, אז איך המשכת? אז הוא אמר, אנחנו ידענו שיצמח מזה משהו גדול. אנחנו ידענו שעכשיו קשה, אבל אם לא אני, הילדים שלי יגיעו לארץ ישראל. ואם לא הילדים שלי, הנכדים שלי. מישהו ימשיך אותי. יהיה המשך למה שאני סבלתי. והיום יש לו למעלה מ-50 נכדים, ויש לו נינים ובני נינים. ואני זוכר שאת זה לקחתי לצבא. עם זה הלכתי לצנחנים, עם זה הלכתי לצבא. אמרתי, מה? אני יכול להגיד שקשה לי? אני יכול להגיד שרע לי? שאבות אבותיי והסבים והסבות שלנו עברו כזה טבח, ומה שחיזק אותו זה שאנחנו כאן עכשיו בתשפ"ה 2025 נהיה כאן מארצות הברית, מצרפת, ממרוקו, מקנדה, מתוניס, ונהיה כאן בארץ ישראל ונמשיך, ואנחנו עדיין ממשיכים, ואנחנו עם הנצח. כשאנחנו נזכרים בהיסטוריה שלנו, אנחנו מבינים שאנחנו העם שיודע את ההיסטוריה שלו, ועם ההיסטוריה שלו הוא הולך יום אחרי יום, סטפ בסטפ, הוא צועד לקראת העתיד הגדול. והיום שאנחנו כאן נזכה לשמוע, אנחנו נזכה להבין איזה זכות יש לנו לשמוע מה אבותינו עברו, כמה כוח צריך לקחת מזה, כמה צריך ללמד את הדור הצעיר ששום דבר לא מובן מאליו. שזה שאנחנו כאן, שיש לנו ברוך השם בית ואוכל. סיפר לי מישהו שהיה בשואה, שהיום יש לו רואה את ילדים שלו, זורקים לחם, מה אתה זורק לחם? מה אתה זורק לחם? תפוח אדמה, מה אתה זורק את זה? ואנחנו בדור שברוך השם יש לנו הכל. כמה צריך להגיד תודה לקדוש ברוך שאנחנו זוכרים שעדיין יש לנו אנשים בינינו, שהיו בשואה ויכולים ללמד אותנו ולספר לנו איך הם עברו את זה, וכמה כוח וכמה אמונה צריך לתת לנו הדבר הזה. יהי רצון שנזכה מהערב הגדוש הזה, הערב הנפלא הזה, המרומם הזה, לקחת את הדברים שאומר לנו, things that you tell us, we'll take it to our heart, ונזכור אותם, ונדע להמשיך, ולהמשיך את כוח החיים, ולהמשיך באמונה גדולה, להיות דבק, להיות דבקים. אנחנו עם הנצח, אנחנו בעזרת השם עוד נגדל, בעזרת השם תהיה תחיית המתים, וכל הקדושים שנשרפו ונהגו יחזרו אלינו, ונזכה בעזרת השם באמונה גדולה. תודה רבה.
Amen. So before I introduce Joshua Pomeranz, I just want to say this relationship is not coincidental, and he's not a stranger to me. We traveled together to Poland 2 years ago in 2023. I'm part of a group that's from my hometown in Toronto that is set on sending as many people as we can to Poland to hear from a Holocaust survivor. And so the last 7 or 8 years, we've been sending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people at a very, very highly subsidized price to go to Poland to hear from the survivors while we still can, while we can still hear from them. And so Joshua was part of a group with 4 survivors 2 years ago. We had 180 participants in that trip. And I'm a Sephardic Jew. I'll put that out there. Very different upbringing than a lot of you that are here. And the most common question that I get when I'm involved in these things is, why are you involved in, what inspires you? And the story really comes back to the idea of the survivor. Because if we look at Poland alone, there was 3.3 million Jews in Poland before the war. 3.3 million Jews, and 3 million were killed. 3 million of the 3.3 million. That means that God had set out a decree that this many Jews would die, but that this many Jews would live. And so Joshua, as far as I'm concerned, is one of those special souls of the remaining 300,000 Jews from Poland that did survive. And to me, that inspires me, because he was chosen by God to survive. You hear survivors talk about, I did this and I did that, and I tried this and I acted older and I did what I could, but ultimately it was Hashem who decided who was going to stay around and stay alive and have families, and Joshua is one of those people, and so are all the other survivors. And that's what inspires me, to know that somebody from that generation was left, that Hashem left those people to continue the Jewish people. And so I surround myself quite often with the survivors, and grow the relationships and learn from them, because the wisdom that they had and what they see is what inspires me on a daily basis. And so I want to introduce Joshua warmly. He'll just his smile alone will leave you with an impression. But I invite you to tell us your story and from when you were born and the Chavod.
Okay. My name is Joshua Pomeranz. My wife Miriam is here. We have 3 children. The oldest one, Esther, he lives in Israel. Our 2 boys live in the United States. It's a Jewish tradition that the speaker both sing the Shvach of the host. So even though I don't know the Levi's very long, I do want to acknowledge that they're hosting this event, and thank them for letting me speak at it. Isaac explained to you our relationship. He talked me into doing this, and I will try. I was born on Shvi Shel Pesach in 1939. It was right now. I celebrated my 86th birthday. At that time, the Germans had not yet invaded Poland. They invaded Poland in September. So I was about 6 months old when the war started. And we were liberated by the Russians in January of 1945. So I wasn't quite 6 years old at the time. The reason I'm telling you this is because you should understand that what I'm going to be telling you is not from my own memory. It's the stories that I heard from my mother, from my daughter who slept with when my mother came to visit, and from my wife who coaxed a lot of information out of my mother. So, hopefully it'll be meaningful. I do want to say this. Even though I didn't have a memory, there was an emotional cost for being cut off from the previous generation. I had 3 grandparents. I had large families on both sides, my mother's and my father's. My father's was a little bit more secular. My mother's was very Hasidic. So it gave me a lot of trouble with my relationship with God. Why did he do that to me? So at the same time that I praise God that he left me alive, and I do not know why, I was the youngest survivor of the city of Radom. Radom is about 30 kilometers south of Warsaw, the main city in Poland today. I felt that there had to be a reaction to my survival, something that I could do. Now, I cannot do God's work. He guarantees how things go, but I can do things with my family. So, I was looking for a wife, and she also has parents who survived the war, and we agreed that what we wanted to accomplish in life is to raise a Jewish family, a family that, even though we were cut off from, will continue the generations ahead. And we were, I must admit, quite successful at it. It not only takes a lot of work of yours, it takes a lot of prayer to make sure that your children and grandchildren don't wind up with the wrong company. But we are very, very proud of our family. So, in 1939, in September, the Germans come into Poland. They take the Jews and gather them. If anybody cannot hear me, just raise your hand or something. I'll try to raise my voice. So,
You here? Okay, great.
Okay. So anyway, we were all gathered into a ghetto. The ghetto was very tight, very bad conditions, and the lack of food and stuff like that. And the Germans had what they call actions every so often, whether they would gather up everybody into the marketplace, they would stand in line, the designated lines for them, and some of the lines went to concentration camps, and some of the lines did not. My father wound up going to concentration camps among the first ones. We are not sure whether they took him to Auschwitz or Treblinka, but we do know that he did not survive. At another action, where my mother was with me and my sister, we were standing on a line. I had very blonde hair. My mother says, "That would be a hazard." I had white hair like a pig. Anyway, she thinks that a soldier must have had a similar son. So he told her, "Don't stand on this line, stand on this line." And she survived that action. After that, she decided not to show up for any actions. Well, that was not so easy. You had to find a hiding place in the ghetto. And they searched for those people. If they found you, they shot you. So, but we managed to survive the ghetto. The ghetto lasted about 2 years without getting caught. My mother also, she played a big role in my life. I want to tell you here. My mother also wound up being a cook for a person who had a clandestine restaurant in the ghetto. They called her Mrs. Tatova because the restaurant was as difficult to get as the Cape Town. Tatova comes from Cape Town. In any event, from being a cook, we had food, very important thing. My mother, so we were able to survive because we had food, and my mother, there was a smaller ghetto, which her parents were at, used to sneak some of the food to her parents, bring it over to them, very dangerous to cross out of the ghetto and come back into the ghetto. But in any event, we managed to survive those 2 years without getting sent to a concentration camp. There were about 600 Jews out of, I think probably 30,000 Jews that were in the area that wound up working in a labor camp. And my mother was among them. I don't know how she transferred from the ghetto to the labor camp, but that was auspicious. I was there, my sister was there. I had an uncle, my father's brother. He was still alive at that time, and he was in a work camp, and he had lost his wife and lost his daughter when he had a son, Yaakov. So we were 4 children in that work camp. And now the people knew that we were there. They only had to hide us when there was an inspector coming through the work camp. So they dug a hole under one of the work tables, and when the inspector came, we were put in the hole, and so that he wouldn't know that there were children in the work camp. My mother tells me that at one time I popped my head out of the hole during inspection, and that he saw me, but he ignored me. He didn't do anything about it. Another miracle, don't know why, but we survived that event. Now, there was one of the ladies that brought food in the ghetto to the restaurant was a Polish lady called Kapsztatova, and she was very important in our lives. She didn't actually do anything physically for us, but she warned my mother, for example, that she sees there's more Germans in the ghetto and they're going to have an action. So my mother had more time to hide us. And in the work camp, she warned my mother when the work camp was going to be liquidated. So it was, at that time, the Russians were advancing, and it was not going to be very long before they came into Poland. And they had Ukrainian guards watching us, not anymore the Germans. And they had what they call a bath day, where the workers got a chance to take a bath. And the Ukrainian guards also took a bath that day. So when there was a minimum number of guards guarding the group, my mother took me in one hand, my sister in the other, and she walked away. She walked away into a cemetery. And my sister says, I expected a bullet in the back of my head any moment, but nothing happened. So we wound up in this cemetery for a few days till the whole Taram with together and got up the Jews and deported them. From there, we went to a village and we were dressed up as Polish people. So we were Poles, essentially, not Jews. My mother dressed me up as a girl. She put a skirt on me, taught me how to go to the bathroom like a girl. Why? Because she felt that the Germans could easily identify a boy by his bris milah. They wouldn't inspect a girl for that. So we survived in that, and for a few months in that environment. And the last thing is this: Kapsztatova found for us a lady that was willing to hide us. They built a room, no doors on it, Only entrance was through the basement. And we got our food through the oven. The lady would put food in the oven from her side, and we would take it out from the other side. My mother paid her money for that. She had the money to pay her every month, but she didn't trust telling her that. So she told her that she didn't have that money with her. She was afraid they were going to kill us for the money. So she left every month the hiding place to supposedly go find the money to pay her. And the woman had daughters who were associated with the Nazis. And when they came into the house, we had to be very quiet. And I remember at one time, I don't remember, my mother told me that the Germans came in, and I was crying. I didn't want to keep quiet. So she put a pillow on my head. And she kept it there till the Germans left. And then she opened it up. I was blue. I was just short of being asphyxiated. But thank God we survived that too. My mother used to light Shabbos candles on 2 matches. But she lit Shabbos candles 2 matches. And she taught me a proper prayer before I went to sleep. And I'll say it to you, but she taught it to me in Yiddish. She said, Ich danke Gott für alle gute Sachen, was das meint getan. I thank you, God, for all the good things that you did for me. Ich bete Gott, das vergeben für alle Arbeit, was ich getan. Ich beg of you, God, to forgive for all the transactions that I did today, and I beg you, God, to give me tomorrow a good day. That was my prayer. I did not have an education till after the war, where my mother hired a teacher to teach my sister and I how to pray. In any event, and my cousin, which we were in the work camp, his father got caught up and sent to the concentration camp. But he somehow survived. And this lady, Kapsatova, brought him to us in the hiding place we had. So he was with us when we were liberated by the Russians. We were liberated by the Russians, as I said, in January 1945. That's really the essence of the story. It took a while, but our family wound up in Buffalo, New York, and I wound up in a high school, the Yeshiva University High School in Manhattan, where I got a proper Jewish and secular education. I went to college too. They had a joint engineering program with NYU. So I got my bachelor's degree from Yeshiva University in 1983. I got my bachelor of engineering in 1984. I stayed for an additional year at NYU to get my master's degree, and we married in 85.
65.
65. Baruch Hashem, we married over 60 years. And I got a job at IBM. They treated me very well. There was no problem with Shabbos, no problem with this. And the only problem was that we lived in Monsey, where there was a Jewish environment, schools for our children and everything. But my work was still an hour away. So I had a commute every day of about an hour to work and an hour back. There were other Orthodox Jews who lived there, so we carpooled together. And thank God I didn't have to drive every day. And thank God we are very, very grateful to Hashem and to help us succeed where we wanted to. And the message I had is you have to hold on to the chain. We cannot understand and why God does what he does. My mother used to say, it's God's will, it's God's world, he does what he wants. We had a survivor, I just want to mention, he passed away this year, Yossi Lefkowitz. He was a wonderful, wonderful man. He was older, and he suffered a lot more during the war, and remembered it than I do. And I remember on the bus, we were visiting a cemetery. I'm a Kohen. I couldn't go to the cemetery, but I watched the video afterwards, and he's standing there among all the graves, and he says, "How can a tree grow in such a place? How can there still be life in a place of such destruction and death?" And I miss him very much. I knew him before we went to Poland, through the Cafe Europa in Jerusalem. He was a lovely, lovely man. I just wanted to mention him. So anyway, I want to thank you very much. Listen to my story. If you have any questions, I will try to answer them. I think it's
Whereabouts in Poland were you? Where was the ghetto?
the ghetto was in Radom, R-A-D-O-M. It's about 30 miles south of Warsaw. It's more or less central Poland. And there were about 30,000, 100,000 people in Radom before the war. 30,000 of them were Jews. In all cities, a lot of percentage of the population was Jewish.
Any questions for Joshua?
Oh, hi.
And
Thanks for speaking. Where were you hidden exactly in Poland?
where was I headed in Poland?
No,
At
sorry,
what
when you
time?
were hiding with your family, where was that?
That was also in Poland, in Radom. We survived the whole war in Radom. It was by a Polish lady that my mother paid her. And we had an agreement with this lady. She demanded that we agree to that after the Russians liberate us, that we do not acknowledge that she saved Jews. She was afraid from repercussions of her Polish neighbors. There was a lot of anti-Semitism in Poland. And that may be nice now, but I'm just telling you, there was a lot of anti-Semitism in Poland. Yes, my grandson.
Just because I think it's something interesting that maybe people would like to hear about some of your earliest memories when you were in the DP camps in Germany, between Poland and when you came to Buffalo.
So I didn't get into that, but we spent a long time in DP is camps for refugees. And there, the schools were structured more like they are in Israel. I showed my daughter at Tuda. She says, "That's the Tuda I got." And one of the subjects was Palestinian geography. Yeah. So it wasn't really because we were in so many of these DP camps. It really wasn't a continuous education, but it was Zionistic. I was part of Beitar. I remember we used to march. Shtei yadot layadein shalanu zu gam kein.
Could you tell them the story of when you were liberated and you just finished with the treatment, but you came out with ringworm? And what did the Poles do to you?
Well, that's interesting also. I started losing my hair after the war. So my mother took me to a doctor to figure out why I was losing my hair. Turned out I had a worm, a parasitic worm in my head that is very difficult to kill. So they shaved my head off, and then at the end they did radiation on it. And that radiation damaged the skin in my head and my ears. And so when I became 70 or so, I started getting wounds on those places. They were not fatal, they were carcinomas, but I had to get them removed. And the last time I went through this was just about 7 weeks ago, and my face looks very good now, clear. You should have seen it 7 weeks ago. Yes.
You said you had an older sister that survived as well? How much
Yes.
older? How old?
She was 5 years older than me. She passed away 4 years ago. She almost made it to 86.
So a lot of the memories that you have are from her as well?
Yes, she had a very good memory, by the way. She remembered my grandfather passing away in the ghetto. She remembered a lot of things I did not remember. Yes.
How long have you been with your family in Israel?
Okay, so when I retired, we wanted to choose a place, and we both decided that Jerusalem was the best place. So we came here, I think I came here in December of 2007, and my wife came later. I say she, because we didn't finish shopping, but the fact was I had a job that I had to come to. I taught in a conservative Jewish high school. They brought the students here for it's called Ramah. Very bright girls, mostly. Boys too, they davened together, we couldn't daven television. But I taught them math and physics. Yes.
You mentioned you had a cousin with you in Poland. Would you like to expand on what happened after the war?
Right. So he wound up in France at an orphanage, and he wrote us a letter from that orphanage. We don't think he was able to do that. He was too young. Somebody dictated this letter for him. But he was already in the West. We were still stuck in Poland. And he was very fortunate. A family from the United States came who did not have any children. And they adopted 2 orphans from that orphanage, including him. They were called the Gartenbergs. And they were religious people and well-to-do people. So he was able to grow up in a religious environment, in a fairly well-to-do with a well-to-do family. But we lost contact with him because they adopted him through a special program which they politically somehow involved Truman. So they didn't go through Hayas, they didn't go through any of the traditional things. So for us, he disappeared from the map. It's when we came to our Aliyah, the local paper interviewed us. And I already left Monsey to teach in Eretz Israel, and my wife got a call from a guy and says, you know, I'm your cousin. And my name is Jack Gartenberg. She says, we don't have any relatives, Gartenberg. But we reunited at that time. He's still alive, thank God. He's older than me also. And it's a nice family. When we come to Monsey, we visit them. Yes. Yes.
Was there a point in time in your childhood or thereafter that that you were raised in a less observant atmosphere because of everything that you went through, your mother, your family?
I just wanted, during the war, you ate what you got. I mean, there was no kashrut there for sure. My mother did not try to practice kashrut. After the war, which we instituted in our house in Buffalo, and that. Now, why Buffalo? It's interesting. You couldn't come to the United States without a sponsor. We did not have family who could sponsor us. But the Western New York, there were the communities of Buffalo, Syracuse, Binghamton, and they sponsored a number of families they called Greenman. And they sponsored us, so that's why my family wound up in Buffalo. The Buffalo Jewish community was very secular. They were Jewish, but they were not observant. I wanted to be observant, so I talked my parents into sending me to a yeshiva in New York. And we had a lot of the teachers and some of the students at the University of Buffalo who were from Washington Heights. They helped me get into the University High School. But no, we ate what we could during the war. Sorry.
Another question on the side.
Yes.
You traveled back to Poland in recent years. Does your town still exist? Or is it like?
They claim the town exists, but they did not bring us there. I know from history, from reading things, that the Jewish cemetery of Radom was destroyed. There is no cemetery. They used the paving stones to build roads. I think it was the Russians that did that. They have sort of a memorial wall. Somebody found, they kept some memorial stones that looked pretty to him, and he donated it to him, and they built like a memorial wall with those. But they do not have a cemetery in Radom. They hardly have any Jews there now. As far as I know, there is no Jewish community there. When we traveled, we asked whether they would stop in Poland in Radom for us. We decided they would. They decided they wouldn't, so we didn't stop there.
You have a question here?
Yes.
Hi, Kelsey, thank you for sharing. Can you maybe share a little bit about how your experiences in the Shoah and afterwards and living with that informs your perspective on current events today in Klal Yisrael?
Well, I tell you, I have never gotten over the fact that God allows things to happen like that. It's something, sometimes I think they'll let me live so long because they're afraid I'm going to make a riot when I get out there. So, I don't know, because the whole door with door, in every generation they want to destroy us. Why modern liberalism turned to what it is today, I don't know. Well, intellectually, I have an idea, but when Adam ate from the apple, what did he mean to see? What did he want to gain by doing that? He wanted to be able to make a decision about what's good and what's bad. Till then, only God could make that decision. We Jews still believe that only God can make those decisions, what is good and what is bad. A lot of societies since then have thought that they could make those decisions and build a better world. The communists, the socialists, and they failed doing that. They failed terribly. And we the Jews sometimes are a victim of that. They resent it very strongly. That's the only iota of understanding I have. And why did God allow that? He allowed it because he wanted to give us the freedom of choice. The freedom of choice is a very important principle in Judaism. Like somebody once said, I have no choice. God said I have to believe in the freedom of choice. Yes.
How many times have you been back to Poland?
Once. I really didn't want to go to.
With us.
He talked
I'm just sorry for that too.
And my wife said, let's go, you've never been there.
You said you wanted to go.
Yeah,
And okay, if you want to go, we'll go.
That's one of the things we always argue about it for 60 years. Yes. But I was never in Poland before this trip. Yes.
I'm wondering if you ever had any contact with the woman who saved your family.
You know, that I always felt that my mother should have nominated her, even though she herself did not do anything. She helped us a lot throughout the war. My mother didn't do that, and I was too young to understand all that. And by the time, I guess I could have done it later, I don't know, somehow did not play a role. Yes.
During your time working in IBM, your job took you to Germany a few times. You want to share maybe how you felt, especially at that time, going to Germany and experiencing that?
Yeah, it was very interesting. I got I was a manager in IBM, and so they sent me at the beginning of the year my agenda, what I should develop that year. And even though I had 30 engineers working, I felt we could not meet the agenda that they wanted from me. So I went to my boss, John Ailing, and I said, I can't do all that. I don't have enough people to do that. I can't train them in time. So he said, they opened 2 laboratories in Europe, one in France and one in Germany. IBM opened them just to make them feel that they're participating also in the development of the technology, not just buying our computers. Go to them and see if they will accept a proposal to do 2. And yes, they did. So the Germans agreed to build the slow memory, which we needed, and low memory, and the French agreed to build the short, fast memory for the cache. And I worked with those 2 groups for 10 years. There's a lot of trips, too many. I mean, I didn't actually help them design the things, but I had to make sure they stayed on schedule, they met specifications, they met the budget, so I sort of oversaw them overall.
How was it in Germany? What was your feeling when you got there?
Well, I still remember going in an elevator and a policeman coming into the elevator, and I got frightened. So I still had those memories, but we were very careful not to start up. I didn't take any invitation from them to visit their homes. I was afraid they're going to have their grandfather, the Nazi, on the wall. So we stayed away from that. On the working level, we did fine. We had arguments, but that was about work, not about religion. It was difficult for me. I would not have preferred to do that, but I had to do it because that was my work.
Can you tell the story in Paris, where you went to shul one Shabbos?
So Paris was different. I stayed in the Intercontinental. I still had to take a train to Colbert, Sons, where IBM was every day. But there was a shul, and it was an Ashkenazi shul, and I used to daven there. One Friday, for some reason or other, the shul was not open. So I went to this Friday shul. And there, I must say I enjoyed the davening in this Friday shul. And there I met a man, and so we were walking out of the shul. I was discussing with him where he's going to eat. So he says, I was supposed to go back, and I didn't get time to go back. So I have really nothing. So I invited him over to my hotel. I had bought food before. There was a Jewish section in Paris where they had kosher stuff. And so we had sort of a Friday night together. Didn't have enough silver. I couldn't find plastic utensils in France.
So what about the shul and the seat with the name on it?
Oh, wait a second. Yes, that was in Nice, believe it or not. I was coming to the shul, and I sit down. I turn around. It says Pomeranz on the seat. So I checked out with the Gabbai, they were not related to me. Yeah.
Have you ever met anyone from your hometown in all your travels? Anyone else that survived?
So my mother knew her family much better than she knew my father's family. And she found cousins and so on. Some of them lived in Toronto, the Greenbergs. And so we had relatives, yes. Moshe Dorfman came from Radom. He lost his wife and he remarried a younger woman who was also his cousin, and they went to Israel. They gave him a piece of sand. He wanted a place where he could raise cows to feed his children. And that place wound up being Savior. He has a nice, his daughter still lives on that place, yes. Beautiful. She has a pardes, an orange pardes, yes.
Did your mother remarry?
Yes, in the ghetto at one point, I was caught outside on a rainy day. So this man came over and put me.
DP camp.
The DP camp.
The DP camp.
The DP camp. I was caught in the rain, not dressed properly. This man came over and put me under his coat. And he says, "Where do you live?" He took me home. So I came home. My mother came and thanked him. And that's how she met my stepfather. She married him. And he worked in Buffalo. When the Jewish community in Buffalo was looking to give him a job, they didn't have a job without Shabbos requirement. He didn't want to work on Shabbos. But one of the members of the Jewish community, Morrison, had a factory which manufactured garage doors from steel. He says, Mr. Silverstein, you can work for me. You don't have to come in on Shabbos. You can leave Friday whenever you want. So he wound up working with this man for 20 years till he passed away. Yeah.
We'll take one or two more questions. Yes. You.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing. I was wondering what your first language is and what other languages you speak.
Yeah, my first language was Yiddish, actually. We spoke at home Yiddish. I once upon a time knew Polish also. I've lost the ability to speak in Polish. And I had a fairly good idea of German also. I took French in high school. I don't know French. And in college, I took Russian, scientific Russian. So, but really, I'm most comfortable in English. I think my wife did a good job adapting ourselves into Israel. And we can, we can do things in Hebrew with the bureaucracy here. It's very important.
What happened when you got to Buffalo and you did not know English?
They put me in kindergarten together with their little children.
Wow. Yeah.
There was no special school for immigrants. So I learned English in kindergarten with the little children. But I progressed very quickly and caught up with my class.
Well, you were 13 years old, but you thought you were only 11. Can you
That's
tell
another
that story?
No.
Yeah.
My daughter. And in the DP camp, the younger people got more provisions. So my mother told them that my sister and I were 2 years younger. So I grew up thinking I was born in 71 instead of
41.
41 instead of 39. And when it came to have my bar mitzvah, so she made it 2 years earlier when I was truly 13. So I said, Mom, you're making my bar mitzvah, I'm only 11. So she said, oh, you're so can have an earlier bar mitzvah. But I did not know till Poland got liberated from the Russians. So my sister and I said, let's write to the Polish embassy. We did to the Polish embassy in Washington, and they found our original birth certificate. So I have a genuine birth certificate which says I was born in 39.
You're only 84 now.
Yes.
We'll take one over there.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the advertisement for this, for you speaking tonight, there was a beautiful picture of you looking like you were giving Birchas Kohanim to two young men.
Right.
I'm wondering if there's a story behind the picture, where it was taken, and
Well, Isaac would tell the story better than I. It was in Poland. It was in one of the shuls.
It was in a small town in Lancet, which we visit whenever we take our groups. It's a beautiful shul that was restored. And more often than not, in our groups, you'll have participants that haven't had a bar mitzvah. And so that was a participant who didn't have one. And so we celebrated his bar mitzvah that morning, and he had a blessing from Joshua being a Kohen.
Yes.
It was very emotional. But with the second person as well, who also hadn't had one.
Right. Right. Yes.
Yes. We'll take the last question.
Thank you very much for your testimony. As a Shoah survivor, I wondered if your children always knew from early on that you had survived the Shoah, or whether you, like many people, didn't speak about it at home and only spoke about it later.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand what you asked.
You wanted to share? Did you tell your children about your experiences, or did you hold it back from them?
No, I told my children. My mother held back. My mother did not tell everybody. She had to be coaxed out of it, the information, by my wife and my daughter. But she spent time when she came to our house for holidays and so on. But I had no trouble sharing.
Like I said, I'm a servant's daughter. My grandmother used to sleep with me when she came to visit. And unfortunately, she would have nightmares at night. And she'd wake up, not 100% awake, and she would tell me her repeated nightmares was that she witnessed a Nazi take a baby by the feet and smash its head on a brick wall. She told me, I don't even remember how young I was, too young to really be told such a thing. But that's what I grew up with. So I grew up from a very young age. Even though she didn't tell the stories, I experienced the pain that way.
She didn't tell us those stories. Used to me. She kept me away from that. She tells me stories about her relationship with God. She says, you have to make God a partner in life. So if you succeed, you don't think that it's only you. And if you fail, you also don't think it's only you. And she said another very interesting thing, which I think is lost in Judaism today. She said, Zan is God's Kozak. Don't be God's Kozak. What does she mean? When the Polish Lord wanted to enforce his laws, he would send the Kazakhs to do that. She says, you don't have to worry about God and enforcing his laws. You all have to be nice to other people. God will worry about the religion. Don't worry about it.
Okay, one more.
My daddy was a Holocaust survivor, and she always told me that like a man would come up to her and ask her for a bracha, because she said that when you meet a Holocaust survivor who believes in God, then that's like the holiest soul. So I was wondering, if you don't mind, no pressure, if you want to, I'm very inspired by your story, just if you want to give us a bracha, especially you're a Kohen, want to give this room a bracha, that would be a great honor.
I tell you, I don't know why God chose me to survive, and I don't know if I have any extraordinary power because of that. And I grew up with the literature Rabbein from Mir. If you ask them for a bracha, they say, "Go as God." I'm not, but I will comply. So we say we have a different bracha for boy and girl. Yisimcha Elohim ki Ephraim u'Menashe, or Yisimcha Elohim ki Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah, followed by the Birchas Kohen, which is in the Torah. Yivarechecho Adonai v'yishmerecho, Yoer Adonai ponav v'elecho v'yichunecho, Isa Adonai ponav v'elecho v'yosem l'cho shalom. So you should all have a good life. Remember to try to, as much as you can, and very strongly to stick to God, and this way you wind up having hopefully a happy life or and a better life.
I just want to take the opportunity, Joshua, on behalf of every single person here, to thank you. We all do, and wish you arichut yamim, you and Miriam, and long life with health and happiness with your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and to all the survivors, to be able to continue to tell their stories. It's been 80 years. Tonight we're commemorating 80 years, and some would say that's a lifetime ago, and some would say that was just yesterday. But why is it important for him to tell his story? We could just open up a book or an audio file or just, hear a recording. But why is it important to hear it from him? And why is it important that we still have him here, that they should hear the stories as much as possible? And this wasn't set up, but he alluded to it in the first 5 seconds that he spoke. His mother had absolutely no reason to keep her religion. She could have checked it at the door. We need to stay alive. That's the priority number one. That was priority number one, staying alive. But it wasn't. And he said it himself. I didn't say it. His mother made sure that they kept it Jewish as they can. And they tried to keep kosher as much as they could. And the first thing that they did when they could was keep Shabbat. He told me stories like this. And also when they left and came to America, it was very easy for you and your wife or your mother to say, we're done. We're going to check religion at the door. But it wasn't. And it became a priority. And so you have to ask yourself, if they could do this, what are we doing? Are we doing enough? Are we doing enough? We live now as a free people. Who would have thought 80 years ago when they came out of the war that we'd be where we are today? To have a state that we can live in, to be able to practice freely. Nobody would have ever thought of that. And I don't know why, we don't know why Hashem chose him to be the survivor from the war. And we don't know why Hashem chose us as the chosen people to be able to live here. 2,000 years we prayed for this. And we're the people that are here. So I'm going to leave you with the following thought, the following 4 words, and we'll end the evening. Towards my Judaism, am I doing enough? Have a good night.
Thank you.
You're welcome to take refreshments. Please don't leave without taking refreshments. Yair and Avital would be honored if you took some.